They flatter you, charm you, mimic your dreams. But behind that mask lies a predator. A narcissist doesn't love you. They love your attention, your admiration, your energy. The scariest part? You often don't see it until it's too late. First, they seem perfect. Funny, caring, smart. They say all the right things. They make you feel seen, heard, understood, like you finally found someone who truly gets you. And that's no accident. Narcissists are master performers. They study people like actors study roles. They become what you want so they can slowly take what they need. And what they need is control. They don't show up as villains. Not right away. They come wrapped in charm, dripping with confidence, and often sympathy. You may even feel lucky to have met them, but slowly the cracks begin to show. Conversations that once felt deep become one-sided. You start questioning your own reactions. You notice how your feelings always come second. You feel drained, confused, guilty, yet you can't explain why. This isn't just selfishness, it's something darker. Narcissists don't simply want love. They want worship. They feed on validation like it's oxygen. And when that supply runs low, they'll manipulate, guilt trip, or gaslight you into giving more. You might think you're helping someone damaged, but in truth, you're becoming their fuel. In this video, we're going to expose 5 chilling signs that you're dealing with a self-obsessed narcissist. These aren't just red flags. These are traps. Clever, psychological games meant to twist your reality and keep you locked in a cycle of self-doubt. If any of this feels familiar, keep watching. The truth might be hard, but it's the first step to freedom. It often starts like a dream. Imagine meeting someone who showers you with attention, hangs on to every word you say, and makes you feel like you've finally found your person, the one who truly sees you. That's exactly how it felt for Maya. At first, every text came with compliments, every call was filled with laughter, and every date felt like magic. He said things like, "You're the only one who really understands me," and she believed it. Why wouldn't she? He made her feel special. But slowly things started to shift. The conversations began to change. They weren't about her anymore. Not really. Whenever she tried to share something, a good day at work, a childhood memory, a worry, it somehow turned into a monologue about his life. If she mentioned being tired, he was exhausted. If she talked about her fears, he had bigger ones. If she was proud of something she did, he'd interrupt with his own, more impressive achievement. It was subtle at first, but over time, Maya began to notice a pattern. Her world was shrinking, while his took up all the space. This is one of the most telling signs you're dealing with a self-obsessed narcissist. They create a one-sided universe where they're the sun, and everyone else is expected to orbit around them. Your thoughts, your joys, your struggles, they only matter if they reflect or boost their image. And if you don't play along, you'll feel it. A sudden coldness, an emotional withdrawal. They might say things like, "You've changed," or "You're being distant," when all you did was try to talk about yourself. It's not a real concern. They just feel threatened when the spotlight isn't on them. They dominate conversations because they genuinely believe their story is more important. It's not just bad manners. It's a deep belief that their life is the center of everything. They may nod or pretend to listen, but their eyes wander. Their replies are vague. or they quickly twist the topic back to themselves. And when they do pay attention, it's often because they're gathering something they can later use, either to impress others or to manipulate you. They might cloak it as care. They'll say things like, "I just worry about you," or "I know what's best for you." But what they really mean is, "Let me control how you think, feel, and act, because your independence threatens me." They want your emotional energy, your sympathy, your focus, so long as it all flows in one direction, toward them. Over time, being around someone like this is draining. You find yourself doubting your stories, shortening your opinions, or keeping things to yourself, just to avoid their disinterest. Your voice gets quieter, not because they told you to stop, but because they made you feel like it didn't matter. That's the slow, silent damage a narcissist can do. Psychologically, it all comes down to how they see themselves, and how little they truly see others. Narcissists often carry a grandiose image of who they think they are. In their mind, they're brilliant, special, even superior. But that image is fragile. It needs constant support. And they expect you to be that support. Always admiring, always listening, always cheering. They don't view you as an equal partner. They see you as a background character in their story. If you've ever felt like your needs, your dreams, and even your identity are slowly fading in a relationship, you're not imagining it. That's the cost of living in a one-sided universe. It doesn't collapse all at once. It drains you, piece by piece, moment by moment, until you're left wondering where you went. And the most dangerous part? They make you feel like you're the selfish one for noticing it. At first, Maya thought she was finally finding her balance again. She began to notice how much of herself she was giving away and how little was being returned. So, one evening she did something small but important. She said no. It wasn't harsh or cold. She simply said she needed some time alone, that she was feeling emotionally tired. But the response she got? Not understanding, not support, just silence. Then came the message. "Wow, after everything I've done for you, this is how you treat me?" And just like that, the focus flipped again. That's the trap. A narcissist's ability to twist guilt like a knife. You bring up something that hurt you, or express a perfectly fair boundary, and suddenly you become the villain. They'll look shocked, betrayed, even heartbroken. Not because you actually wronged them, but because you dared to shake the illusion where they're always the victim, never the cause. You'll start to hear things like, "I guess I'm just the worst person in the world," or "No one appreciates how much I give." It sounds dramatic, and it is, but it's not random. It's calculated. It's guilt-tripping wrapped in self-pity. And if you're someone who cares deeply about others, someone empathetic, kind, and soft-hearted, it hits you like a punch to the chest. Before you even realize it, you're comforting them for the pain they caused you. You're backpedaling, explaining, trying to make them feel better about the boundary you set. That's how deeply they twist the narrative. You start to feel like you're walking through a minefield where every step triggers another round of blame, sorrow, or shame, but somehow never accountability. What makes this even more chilling is how smoothly they rewrite events. Something as clear as their angry outburst suddenly becomes your overreaction. Their silence after a fight, it's because you pushed them away. They pick and choose moments, twist your words and craft a version of reality where they're the one who always suffers, and you're the one who needs to apologize. This isn't just manipulation, it's emotional blackmail. They use your kindness against you. They know you don't want to hurt anyone, that you care about how others feel. So they place themselves in the role of the wounded, fragile soul who's just trying their best. And if you push back, they'll dig deeper. I knew you'd leave me, or everyone always turns on me. Suddenly you're stuck trying to prove that you're not like everyone else. They demand loyalty, patience, forgiveness over and over, but when it's your turn to need those things, they're nowhere. Or worse, they accuse you of being selfish for needing them at all. This tactic often shows up in a more covert form of narcissism, what psychologists call vulnerable narcissism. Unlike the loud, boastful narcissist who craves admiration openly, the covert type hides behind insecurity, sadness, or fragility. But make no mistake, they still believe they are more important than others. They just manipulate through guilt instead of glory, and it works, especially on people who are naturally empathetic. If you're someone who feels others' pain deeply, who wants to fix things, who fears causing harm, then you're exactly the kind of person they target. Because you're easy to guilt, easy to trap in emotional debt, easy to convince that you need to fix them. But here's the truth, that debt, it's fake. You don't owe anyone your peace. You don't owe anyone endless forgiveness just because they've suffered. Pain doesn't give someone the right to hurt others, and it certainly doesn't give them the right to manipulate you into staying. The reason guilt works so well is because it doesn't scream. It whispers. It shows up in quiet apologies you feel forced to give, in the second guessing of your own memories, in the exhaustion of always trying to explain yourself. That's how they keep control, not through power, but through your compassion. And that's what makes it so dangerous. Because the more you give to soothe their hurt, the more you forget your own. The more you rush to repair their wounds, the more your own needs bleed out unnoticed. You end up emotionally bankrupt, carrying the weight of their sadness, their past, their pain, while they carry nothing of yours, and they like it that way. Always starts the same. They seem perfect. You meet them, and within days, maybe even hours, they just get you. They like the same music. They've read the same obscure books. They believe in the same values. And they've been through eerily similar pain. It feels like destiny. Like someone finally understands the deepest parts of you without needing to be told. But what feels like a rare soul connection is often something far more chilling. It's not love. It's a performance. In those early days, they shower you with praise, attention, and admiration so intense it feels unreal. Because it is. They compliment your mind, your heart, your dreams, even your fears. They say you're different, that no one has ever made them feel this way. And you believe them because it's exactly what your heart has been waiting to hear. But what you don't realize yet is this. They're not falling in love with you. They're studying you, learning your emotional blueprint, discovering what makes you feel seen, special, and safe. They take mental notes on your likes and dislikes, your morals, your routines. They mirror your world, not to connect, but to possess. At first, it's flattering. You think, wow, we're so alike. But over time, something begins to feel off. The things they once said they loved, they barely acknowledge anymore. The hobbies they claim to share, gone. The personality that once fit yours like a glove now shifts into coldness or control. It's like they were wearing a mask made out of you, and now they've taken it off. That's the painful twist. You didn't fall for who they are. You fell for a reflection of yourself. And once you're emotionally hooked, they no longer need to pretend. They already know what matters to you, what you dream about, what you're afraid of, and they'll use all of it, not to support you, but to steer you, to shape your choices, to pull your strings. This is called mirroring, and it's one of the most subtle but powerful manipulation tools narcissists use, because narcissists don't have a strong, stable identity of their own. Deep inside, there's a hollow space where a true sense of self should be. So, they borrow personalities. They become a shapeshifter, slipping into whatever form makes them most adored in the moment. It's not just imitation, it's seduction through similarity. They make you feel like you've met a soulmate when, in reality, you've met a chameleon. One who molds themselves into your idea of perfect, so they can slip past your defenses and claim ownership over your trust, your time, and eventually, your self-worth. The switch doesn't happen suddenly, it creeps in. One day they start criticizing the very things they once admired. They mock your interests, dismiss your opinions, or make you feel silly for your emotions. They might act bored when you talk about your passions, or avoid the places you used to love going together. You begin to question yourself. Was I always this boring? Did I change? But it wasn't you. It was never real to them, because they don't fall in love with who you are. They fall in love with the control they get from becoming what you want. And once they no longer need that mask, they discard it. And if you're not careful, they discard you too. It's one of the most emotionally damaging traps, because it doesn't just break your heart, it breaks your sense of reality. You start to doubt your own intuition, because how could something that felt so deep be so fake? You wonder if maybe you imagined the connection, but the truth is, you didn't imagine anything. They did. You were real. They were pretending. And perhaps the most painful part is this. They don't miss you when it ends. They miss the supply, the admiration, the control. That's what they were feeding on all along. This is why it's so important to slow down when someone feels too perfect too quickly. Healthy people don't need to rush deep emotional intimacy in a matter of days. Real connection takes time, and it includes differences, disagreements, and discovery, not duplication. If you've ever felt like someone mirrored you too closely, only to change once they had your heart, it wasn't your fault. You were targeted, not because you're weak, but because you're open, because you love deeply, because you wanted connection, and they turned that beautiful longing into a leash. The next time someone makes you feel like you've met a mirror, ask yourself, are they reflecting who I am? Or are they trying to replace it? Because love doesn't feel like possession, it doesn't require mimicry, and it certainly doesn't vanish the moment your admiration becomes inconvenient. If you feel like you're losing yourself in someone else's version of you, it's not love. It's theft. At first, it felt like they saved you. Maybe you were going through a breakup, a rough patch with your family, a period of confusion or pain, and then they appeared. Strong, confident, understanding. They listened. They helped. They said all the right things. You told yourself, where would I be without them? It felt like a lifeline, like someone finally saw your pain and pulled you from it. But what you didn't see right away was the strings they were quietly tying around you while they saved you. That's the thing about narcissists. They don't always come in loud, arrogant, and obvious. Sometimes they show up as the rescuer, the one who fixes things, heals wounds, and offers protection. But if you look closer, their help often comes with invisible hooks. You didn't ask to be saved, yet they inserted themselves anyway. And slowly, they became the center of your recovery. The storyline wasn't, you found your strength. It was, they gave it to you. You'll hear them say things like, if it weren't for me, you'd still be stuck. Or no one else would have stood by you like I did. And at first, you might even agree. But over time, that hero act becomes a weapon. Anytime you set a boundary or stand up for yourself, they remind you of your past. They remind you of what they did for you. It's subtle, but it tightens around your decisions. You begin to feel like you owe them your peace, your loyalty, your silence. In conversation, they always seem to be the one who rescued someone. Ask them about their past and they'll talk about all the people they've helped, the sacrifices they made, the chaos they cleaned up. But somehow every person they helped also became crazy, toxic, or ungrateful in the end. And yet, here they are again, swooping into your life as the savior. It's not a coincidence, it's a pattern. That's the narcissist's savior complex. The need to be seen as the solution to everyone's problems. But the help isn't about kindness. It's about control. By making themselves the hero, they gain power over your story. They frame themselves as the reason you're okay. So you'll never question them, never leave, never stop admiring them. It's a quiet kind of manipulation, but it's deeply effective, especially for those who are already vulnerable. And here's where it gets darker. They'll use your own pain as leverage. Maybe you opened up to them about a trauma, a fear, a weakness they seem to understand. But now, they subtly bring it up during arguments, use it to guilt you or remind you how patient they've been with your healing. Suddenly, the person who once comforted you becomes the one who holds your pain against you. They never forget the moment you were weak, because that's the moment they took control. This is where the idea of the wounded healer comes in. Many narcissists carry stories of their own suffering. They'll tell you about their abusive ex, their impossible childhood, their deep emotional wounds, and you'll empathize because you're human. But they don't share their pain to connect. They share it to build a moral pedestal, to show you how strong they are, how forgiving, how much they've overcome. It's not vulnerability, it's image building. The truth is, narcissists crave admiration in every role. Whether they're the genius at work, the misunderstood artist, or the tireless giver in a relationship, they need to be seen as special. Even their sacrifice has to shine. That's why their grand gestures often feel too big, too public, or too perfectly timed. It's not about helping you. It's about being praised for helping you. And this is where many people get trapped, because it's hard to question someone who saved you. It feels ungrateful. It feels wrong. But saving you was never just about you. It was about them creating a version of themselves that you'd never dare to challenge. A version where they're always right, Always noble, always the reason you survived. But here's the truth. Someone who truly helps you doesn't need to remind you of it every day. They don't expect loyalty in return. They don't hold your healing over your head. Real support empowers you. It doesn't chain you. It builds your strength, not your dependency. If someone is always the hero in every story they tell, you need to ask, who's the villain? Because chances are the people they claim to have helped are the very people they hurt. The praise they chase is covering the pain they caused. And if they're using your gratitude to control you, it's not help. It's harm dressed in kindness. So, if you find yourself constantly thanking someone for saving you, but also walking on eggshells around them, questioning your worth, or feeling like you owe them your silence, stop. Take a step back. You weren't rescued. You were recruited into their narrative, their need to be admired, their hunger for control. The real red flag isn't in how loudly they tell you they love you. It's in how often they remind you you'd be lost without them. Because true love doesn't need to prove it saved you. It simply stays, supports, and lets you shine, not as a reflection of them, but as your own light. It starts small. Maybe you bring up something they said that hurt you and they laugh. I never said that. You feel confused because you know they did, but they're so confident, so calm, so certain that you begin to question yourself. Maybe you did mishear. Maybe it wasn't that serious. You try again a few days later, bringing up the same issue, and this time they're annoyed. You're always making things up. You're too sensitive. And just like that, a crack forms in your reality. One that slowly, deliberately they'll sow. Keep prying open until your trust in yourself disappears entirely. That's the chilling power of gaslighting. It's not just lying. It's not just denial. It's a psychological tactic that works in layers, bit by bit, over time, until you stop believing your own eyes, ears, and instincts. And narcissists are masters of this game. They won't scream, throw things, or always storm off. Sometimes they'll simply smile and tell you what really happened, rewriting your memories, twisting your emotions, reshaping the story so that they're the rational one and you're the unstable one. You start to notice the pattern. Every time you try to stand up for yourself or explain how you feel, they spin the situation around. You're not hurt. They say you're overreacting. You're not confused. They say you're paranoid. And when they do apologize, it's only to maintain control. I'm sorry you feel that way, or I'm sorry you misunderstood me. The words sound nice, but the blame still falls on you. Over time, you stop bringing things up. You question whether your feelings are even valid. And worst of all, you begin apologizing for things you didn't do, just to keep the peace. This isn't miscommunication. This is psychological warfare. Gaslighting isn't always loud or violent. It's often quiet, subtle, wrapped in concern or logic. I think you need to calm down. You're remembering it wrong. You always twist things. These phrases chip away at your certainty, and the more they deny your reality, the more isolated you feel. You start to think, maybe it is me. You pull away from friends and family, afraid they won't understand. And that's exactly what the narcissist wants, to be the only voice in your head. And here's the dark truth. Gaslighting doesn't just confuse you, it bonds you to them. That confusion, that desperate need to make sense of things, creates a cycle. You seek comfort from the very person who's causing the chaos. You cling to the moments they're kind, calm, and gentle, hoping that this time, it's real. That hope keeps you trapped. It's called trauma bonding, and it's one of the most powerful chains a narcissist can create. The highs and lows, the praise and punishment, the kindness and cruelty, all blend together until your brain becomes addicted to the roller coaster. Think about it. One moment they're denying your pain, the next they're holding you, saying how much they love you. One day they mock your emotions, the next they say you're the only one who understands them. It's like standing in quicksand. Every time you try to move, you sink deeper, unsure of what's real, what's imagined, and whether it's even worth speaking up anymore. And the longer you stay, the more your mind bends to survive. You start to rewrite your own thoughts. You start to excuse their behavior, justify their cruelty, silence your own doubts, because accepting the truth that someone you love is slowly erasing your identity is too painful. So instead, you adapt. You shrink. You learn to lie to yourself just to keep the illusion alive. That's the final stage of gaslighting. Not when they lie to you, but when you start lying to yourself. When you convince yourself that they didn't mean it, that you're too emotional, that you're lucky to have them, that if you just tried harder, things would be better. It's a cage made of false hope, and the door is locked from the inside. But here's what they don't want you to know. Your memory is not broken. Your emotions are not too much. Your truth is still yours, even if someone else refuses to see. The moment you begin to trust your own perception again is the moment their power starts to fade. Gaslighting doesn't work because you're weak. It works because you're empathetic. You care about fairness. You want to understand. You're willing to look inward and ask, what if I'm wrong? That's strength. But in the hands of a narcissist, that strength becomes a weapon they use against you. So how do you break free? It starts with listening to that quiet voice inside you, the one that still remembers the truth, the one that felt the sting of their words even when they said you imagined it, the one that keeps whispering, "This isn't right." Reconnect with people who knew you before the confusion. Journal, reflect, reclaim your story one piece at a time. Because a narcissist doesn't just lie to you, they teach you to doubt the deepest parts of yourself. They build a fake reality and hand it to you like a gift. But that gift is poison. And once you see it for what it is, you can finally choose to stop drinking it. You are not crazy. You are not too sensitive. And you're not broken. You've just been twisted around someone else's illusion for so long. You forgot what clarity feels like. But it's still there. Beneath the fog, beneath the fear, beneath the exhaustion, your truth still lives. And it's waiting for you to believe in it again. But once you finally begin to see the cracks, once the fog starts to lift and the truth starts to sink in, it's not just pain you feel, it's grief, it's betrayal. It's the terrifying realization that someone you trusted, someone you cared about, someone you maybe even loved, was never really showing you them. They were only ever showing you what they needed you to see. And now, with your mind twisted and your self-worth in pieces, the hardest part begins. Not escaping them, but reclaiming yourself. The very first step is awareness, just like you're doing now. Recognizing the signs for what they are: manipulation, Gaslighting, control, not love, not concern, not care. The moment you stop defending their behavior and start naming it for what it truly is, the spell begins to break. You may still feel conflicted. You may still have hope that they'll change. But deep down, your instincts know. And that knowing is powerful. Now comes the hard part, emotional detachment. Not from them as a person, but from the illusion they built. You'll be tempted to explain yourself, to get closure, to make them finally see what they did to you. But the truth is, they already know. And they don't care. Their game only works as long as you keep playing. So stop explaining. Start deciding. Decide to draw a line. Whether it's going no contact or creating strong emotional boundaries, protect your energy like your life depends on it. Because emotionally, it does. Understand that what you're feeling isn't weakness. It's not obsession. It's a trauma bond. Narcissists create highs and lows that wire your brain like an addiction. That rush of approval when they're being kind, followed by the crushing silence or criticism when they're not. That's the cycle. And your nervous system becomes attached to the roller coaster, craving the relief that only they seem to give. Breaking this bond takes time and patience. But the more distance you create, mentally, emotionally, physically, the more your clarity returns. Start small. Affirm your reality even when your mind wants to spiral. If something felt wrong, it was wrong. If they made you feel worthless, that's not your truth. That's their control tactic. Keep reminding yourself over and over until your truth becomes louder than their voice in your head. Write it down, say it out loud. Look in the mirror and speak it until you believe it again. And you don't have to do this alone. Therapy isn't just for crisis, it's for healing. For unpacking the layers of manipulation you've endured. For reminding you of who you were before their influence. Reach out to someone who gets it. A support group, a trusted friend, a therapist who understands narcissistic abuse. You'll be amazed how powerful it feels to hear someone say, "No, you're not crazy. That did happen. You're not imagining it." One of the biggest lies they plant in your mind is that you're incapable on your own, that without them, you're nothing. But the truth is the opposite. Without them, you're free. Free to think, feel, grow, and rebuild. You get to reconnect with your own voice, the one they tried to silence. You get to reclaim your decisions, your peace, your identity. And slowly, step by step, you begin to trust yourself again. You don't need revenge. You don't need to prove anything. Your healing is the loudest answer to their manipulation. Because nothing scares a narcissist more than a person who no longer needs their validation, who no longer dances to their tune, who finally sees the game and refuses to play. And as you walk away, maybe slowly, maybe shakily, remember this. Narcissists don't destroy you with fists. They destroy you with doubt. They plant it deep inside you until you can't see your worth anymore. But the moment you stop letting them define your truth, they lose. Not because you fought harder, but because you woke up. And waking up is the beginning of everything. And now as the dust settles, you see it clearly. The mask was never real. It was designed to pull you in, to make you feel safe, special, chosen. But underneath it was always a predator in disguise. The charm, the attention, the promises. It wasn't love. It was a trap. And the scariest part wasn't just that you fell for it. It's how much of yourself you gave away while trying to hold it all together. Walking away isn't easy. Not when your heart was involved. Not when you believed the good times were real, even if they came wrapped in pain. You might still have moments when you miss them, when your mind plays tricks on you and tries to romanticize the chaos. That's normal. It's part of healing. Because detaching from a narcissist means mourning someone who never truly existed. And that's a grief only those who've been through it can understand. But here's the truth they don't want you to realize. You're stronger than they ever expected. You're still standing. You're still learning. You're still capable of love, empathy, and deep connection. Even if they tried to turn those gifts into weaknesses, they underestimated you. They thought they could rewrite your story, but they didn't count on one thing: your ability to wake up, walk away, and rebuild. So if something in this spoke to you, if it helped you see the hidden strings, the subtle control, the mask slipping, just imagine what real clarity could do for your future. Imagine reclaiming your voice, your peace, your power. You don't need to fight them anymore, you just need to keep choosing you. And from that moment on, they lose their grip forever. If this helped you recognize something hidden in your life, imagine how clarity could reshape your future. Follow for more.